This episode of Black Founder Hour is brought to you by Ikoyi Capital, Africa's first investor. We support early stage founders building companies and software to support Africa's consumer and enterprise software markets for the next 100 years. Join us at Ikoyi Capital if you're a founder looking to build a lasting legacy and incredible companies to support Africa's people.
Hey, my name is Tunji Williams. I am the host of the Black Founder Hour. It's conversations with some of the most gifted entrepreneurs that you don't know yet. And what I want to do is introduce you to those founders. These are brilliant people who just might not get the shine that they deserve otherwise. And I'm trying to introduce you to some of them, reintroduce you to some of them, and basically just have real, authentic, enlightening conversations with these people and show you what wonderful people they are, as well as incredible generators of value and wealth, both present and future. So I hope you all tune in. We're going to post these episodes regularly beginning in June. This first episode is a little bit of a teaser with a founder that I have really come to love, and I think you'll enjoy his story and his vision as well. I look forward to bringing you these regularly. I hope you tune in for everyone. Take care. Bye.
Aya,
Yeah, man.
what's up?
Long day. It's a weekend. So Sundays are my lazy days. I have a friend whose birthday was this week recently. And so I love brunch. And so I literally just got in from brunch with her, just like as a birthday present.
Awesome.
So lazy day.
Got it.
Sundays are my lazy day.
I'm your post brunch date. Oh, just don't fall asleep on me.
I'm about good conversations. So we're good.
Cool.
We're good.
Thanks for doing this with me, man. Like a lot of the stuff I'm doing right now in my creative and like entrepreneurial life are experimental, like within parameters, obviously, and with a purpose, but just kind of jumping out and trying things with no fear. And through it, I'm meeting incredible people like you. I know that you know what it means to jump out with no fear or with fear, but in faith.
A world of fear. I was actually having that conversation today.
I want to hear more about that. Actually, let's just go with that. Like, okay, what the hell was that conversation about? Like, what are you fearful of right now?
It's personal and professional, right? Like the risk of my business failing, it's 50-50. I think the product I've built is really good. And the reason I think it's really good is because I built it because I had the problem, right? My business is a waste collection software for a back end. And what I realized is the problem that I solve for my business is also the problem faced by literally tens of thousands of small and mid-sized businesses in Africa today, right? So like the market is there, the product is there. Maybe I'm not the one that brings that product to the market, but it's going to be there, right? So, that's a risk. But like my birthday is coming up, so I'm turning 38. I am single, and like I like to say, to the best of my knowledge, I have no children. Actually, that was an ex-girlfriend that told me that after a conversation with her mom.
I'll leave that alone.
But the fear is that, right? Like if I fail now, right, I have to go back to life in America or life. Like I don't care where I live, right? My family is a family of people that span the colonized world and the non-colonized world. Like where I live isn't that important, but I still have to go back to there and I still have to find a job. I have to find a job that would pay me what I think I'm worth and enough to like overcome like the years of like in the wilderness adventure that I've been doing. Yeah. In addition to, I'm single, right? So actually I'm not single anymore. I'm not single anymore, but I don't have kids, right? And my partner is far from me. So it's like all of these very social fears, right? Very personal fears. I have 3 nephews and they were born and I didn't get to see them for many years. I have another addition to my family, hopefully coming in a few weeks. And just like missing out on all of these things, right? Missing out on all of these moments, and trying to live a life where you're never really anywhere. I love the poem Robert Frost, Two Roads Diverge in the Yellow Wood. And like that poem epitomizes the life I've lived and the life I'm living. So that's really that's really the fear, right? That I know that ways leads on to way, and in years to come, I won't be able to come back here, right? To this moment, not in place, but like in all of these things, right? So having kids, finding a life partner, being able to provide the kind of life that I want for them, all of these things, all of these young male or black male or just unmarried single man things those are the real fears, right? Like my business failing, I'm stubborn enough, like I can roll with the punches, I can make it work. Something will work, right? And if it fails, like I took a shot, I did it, I have to pay some people back. That's not the end of the world. But you know, I love kids and I want to have my own family. And so all of these things are the fears that, you know, that I have now when I didn't have 8 years ago. I didn't have 5 years ago when I started, right? Because I wasn't, you know, my ex-girlfriend used to say, like, you can do both of these things, but like in years to come, it just, and I didn't, those things didn't register to me then because that wasn't where I was, you know?
It's so funny you bring that up organically because I found that one of my most leaned upon mental models relates to the existential fears that you're describing. And before I got married to my wife, Victoria, my wonderful wife, Victoria, we had a conversation about marriage like a year and a half before. And the way I was brought up, you know, traditional Nigerian family, that when you're ready to, you know, ask somebody for their hand, you need to be ready to provide. Like that's just a part of manhood. And she kind of disabused me of that notion and said, like, part of the journey, part of the fun and the beauty of our journey will be building together, you know, and like you can enjoy that journey with me. You don't feel like you have to bring that wrapped up in a bow. And that was so freeing. It took me another 3 years to get it. I'm still getting it. But man, that's freeing.
Absolutely. And I fully agree with that model. But like being in Guinea, which is literally one of the, like Guinea is bottom 20 in the world. Guinea's pretty low, right? Like finding a partner that meets all of my physical personality, all of those matches, as well as who wants to be, because I realize that I'm a homebody at nature and I like my partner near me, right? And like we can bounce around and see each other, but I definitely need my partner near me at the same time, if that makes sense.
100%.
So I think, you know, if I was doing this in Senegal, if I was doing this in Nigeria, I'd have a much easier time at like, you know what I mean? Bringing someone into this, but like this country, nah, man, it's rough to do to somebody. So, but it's getting better. Guinea has improved a lot over the past few years that I've been here. So.
I think I feel good for you. My prayer for you is that you find somebody in the journey who is worthy of your affection and commitment, because it's clear. I mean, I think we'll get more into it. It's clear from the things you put your hands on and commit to that you go all the way. And that's part of what drew me to you and got me so excited about releasing this first episode well before I had planned to kind of put this content out. So I want the folks getting to listen into our conversation to know what kind of person they're getting to listen to now. But I just wanted to kind of give you that and push that into the future as well on your behalf. I want to ask as well, related to that, and feel free to push back and go in another direction if you want. It's like, this is just a chat, man. Like, what's your relationship with your fears? Like that set of fears that you describe and others, like, what are the conversations you have with yourself about those fears and with those fears? Like, what does it look like for you day to day when you're conscious of it?
So I come from a very religious family when we were growing up. We used to go to church a lot. And now my family has shifted a lot to spirituality. So my siblings, my mom, various levels of spirituality. And my older sister and I always have this argument about like how I interact with faith. And what I tell my sisters is that I've been fortunate enough to be blessed with women that cover the spiritual realm for me. And so I see myself, and this is another reason why I'm worried about like why I'm worried about like what my fear is. I see myself as the warrior in the family that goes out, accomplishes a task. I see them as pillars that enable me to do those things, right? And so when I think about my fears, it's like it's just something that has to be engaged with, right? Like it said, like the dude says in Dune, I will face my fears and I will let it pass through me. Like,
is that a Doom reference?
It is.
We're gonna be friends. We're gonna be friends. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's like you have to just get up every day and put one foot in front of the other and ask for help. I'm really bad at asking for help, but like facing my fears, it's what's the worst that can happen? And like the worst can happen. I can go down that rabbit hole, and I do go down that rabbit hole. But at the end of the day, I was telling somebody this recently, I generally make a decision pretty quickly. I like, go back and forth in my head, but I know what I want to do. And I can tell you all the reasons, and then I'll tell you all the reasons why not, and I'll did or whatever. But like, if you put a gun to my head, the decision's made, right?
Yeah.
The decision's been made, it was made. But yeah, so for my fears, it's very much you put yourself in this situation. You wanted this, push through, right? Just push through. So, and that's where the warrior thing comes in is, financially, like career-wise, I worry that I am not equipped enough as I ought to be. Because I know myself as an academic, right? I know myself as a student. My classmates were worlds better than me. But classwork isn't my strong suit. Like my strong suit is just the ability to do things and make it happen, right?
Yeah.
Where that falls in the if you have to get a career is something I don't know. But it is, something it's that fear, and like you just keep going because you'll armor up, you'll gear up, and then you'll overcome, So that's kind of how I deal with the fears.
You put it really simply, and I think it's way easier said than done. And I think it's like it's one of the major battles that you have to win, I think, as somebody who wants to be successful in the line of work that we've chosen for ourselves. I wouldn't even call it a line of work. It's like the lifestyle, the life pursuit that we've chosen. It's about being, comfortable existentially with those fears and befriending them. I don't want to transition awkwardly, but I guess one thing we talked about before we got on today is what I would love to do with this thing, growing it out, is basically have no rules around the conversations and just let them be free flowing. And really the only rule be at an hour, the guest tells us we've got to be done. And then our listeners can find ways to get in touch with you if they want to keep talking with you. And I will clearly keep talking to you weekly because I can't stop thinking about what you're building and your journey to date and just imagining the potential for the future. One thing I'm really interested in is just kind of like, who are your people, man? Like, what's your constitution? What are you built of? Like, why are you here? Small talk.
I like that expression because one of the things I tell to people is I am my family's personification of the African diaspora, right? Like my dad and his people are Nigerian. My mother and her people are Grenadian, which obviously means they descend from slaves. And my aunt is working on figuring and putting the family tree together. So I like to see how far that back goes. And like I live in America, right? The people that is my people are people that like do things and just do them, right? I think about my uncle Garfield. I have a large number of uncles on my mother's side.
Okay.
My uncle Garfield, and like the thing I remember about Uncle Garfield is that this man never shows up.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay. So my business now is we took out the software product that we built to better manage operations and monitoring in my first company in Dalo. And Dalo, by the way, just means waste to go. It's just an idea of we were trying to transfer waste. Because the main product, I'll go back to Dalo for a minute. The main product is the waste collection, but the second and more interesting product would have been the recyclables, which is actually less than what people think. It's only like less than 20%, but the organics in Africa is over 60%. So you have enough to make an impact on localized agriculture, because, you know, for every 10 tons of waste you collect, for 10 tons of waste you collect, you're getting like 6 tons of organic waste, which is giving you around probably like a ton of fertilizer. And easily in a city of 200, 300,000 people, you can very easily collect 10 tons of waste a day. So it makes sense, right? And the demand for farmers, if you can give 50 kilos, so 50 kilos is a little over 100 pounds of fertilizer to somebody, organic fertilizer, at a decent price, you're not only helping them save money, but you're also improving their output. And people will say that and it is a true statement, that organic fertilizer can't match chemical fertilizer, but that's actually part of the point, right? The problem with chemical fertilizer is you essentially have to continue increasing the dosage to maintain the quality of the output. Organic fertilizer, the dosage is, you can play with it to get higher potassium, higher potassiums and other things you want in ammonia in the soils, but because of the composite of organic fertilizer, your soil is just richer, organically, naturally, actually, and so the output is more without as much as a drain on the soil. So without the dosage thing, you're getting better soil and less trouble, right? The proof of that is we were dumping in what the government assigned us as landfill, and people would go and farm there. Like farmers would come and find us to be like, dump on our land, even though you still have the waste that's in there. They'd want it because, as unhealthy as it is, it's better than nothing. And it is, an improvement. It's an improvement on nothing, and cheaper than chemical fertilizer. So that's
if that's not the definition of product market fit, walking through shit to get your product because it's that good, I don't know what it is.
Right. Yeah. And so right now what I've done is use this. So I've left that, even though I really think, like, honestly, if I can get someone that's about that, like, especially with the fact that I have the software platform built out now, we were really just like trying to bare bones it, but now that it's built out, like, first, the software platform lets a waste operator or anyone really establish their market. Like, you can go to a city. One of the major problems in Africa is no one really knows where anyone is and how many people are there. So like, if you're starting a waste business or any business, you kind of just like, you're going blind. You're like, okay, this has worked here, we can sell. Like, you don't really know, right? Whereas with this platform, you take with my platform, you take a month, you hire 20 kids, you send them into the field. Not only can you check what they're doing, you're getting geolocation of the different people they're seeing. So you're getting a ton of data. I want to say shit ton of data on a city. And so then you're like, okay, so now there are 40,000 households in the city. Of these 40,000 households, 50 of them don't want service, and they live in places that doesn't matter anyway. But we still have 25,000 or 20,000. Of that 20,000 who want to pay for service, who want service, half of them can pay. You're down to 10. But even at 10,000, if you're being paid $5 a month for waste collection at 10,000, you can make that math works regardless of how you do it. What it does not do is it does not work at sub 2,000. And to do 2,000 collections a day, you need a small fleet, right? But you also need a tool to monitor that, because if you have a breakdown, you're screwed. There are lots of things that can make it go badly. But if you can keep to 2,000 a day, you're going to make a profit, and you're going to make a decent profit.
And you figured that
so like
out.
20-30%.
You figured that out doing it yourself. Is that right? Is that what
Yeah, unfortunately, it was a costly lesson. It was a
Hmm.
costly lesson.
Can you go into
Um,
that a little bit? What are some of the scars you have to show from that? What are the? I mean, I think maybe you can give us the learnings, maybe like the top three, and then maybe a story or two that got you there.
Um, People will pay for people. So one of the big things that I had to realize is a lot of people say that Africans don't pay for service. Like, they won't pay for something like waste collection. They won't
Hmm.
pay for electricity. They won't pay for water. And that's not true. They won't pay one if it's not regular in quality and if it's not reliable, right?
Yeah.
And also water and electricity, the government makes you come to them to pay you. I'm not going to, like, nobody anywhere in the world is excited about going to go pay somebody a bill.
Yeah.
Like, what is wrong with you? Right? It's still it's a very different mentality. Like, but and people are bad and they'll be jerks about it. But like a lot of I had something like an 85% collection rate, right, of payment.
Okay.
Honestly, and again, this goes into the math, right? Even at 5,000 customers, you're still making 4,000 payments from 3,035 to 4. You'll be
Hmm.
okay. So that's the first lesson that was really amazing. Like, people will pay. So that was a problem I had to like figure out. Like, you've got to figure out a way to monitor those payments, right? And like, because the other lesson is, because cash payments are still a big thing, and this is also a reason why I needed a software platform. Theft is really easy. Theft
Huh.
is really easy. And
Gotcha.
so people, like, your employees will go and be like, oh, we're collecting for the month, and the customer will be like, okay, and pay, because this is what they typically do. And then you'll find out, like, then you're like, okay, this customer hasn't paid. And if you're doing pen and paper, you then have to, it takes a few days to realize that. Or if you have if you had, like, we had 600 or 700 customers, it takes you a few weeks to realize that, right? Because you have to
Yeah.
go to people, right? So all of these things are inefficiencies in the system that my software is just like, oh, we can fix this, right?
Got it.
So that was the second lesson. So you have to plan for theft.
Hmm.
And I did not realize how badly people would just steal, right? And the thing is, like, when you read documents or when you read like Harvard Business Review, they talk about like creating a team spirit and all of this, and it's like, you can do all those things,
Yeah.
but like, what matters to somebody, right? It's like, oh, somebody wants to be paid, but at the end of the day, it's this world where, okay, you paying someone $150, where in the city that they're living in for the work they're doing, $150 is a decent amount of money.
Yeah.
Because they don't have any debt, right? Like, it's not like they have any school debt, and
Yeah.
their rent is no more than $300, or so let's say $150 you're paying them. Their rent's no more than $30.
Hmm.
So, like, you're not suffering, right? And
Right.
so, what else am I like? What else? Now you want me to give you more money, but I can't afford to, and you know that. But you
Right.
still want, right? So
Yeah.
that was the thing. And the third one is around human resources. It's a very warped one, but my experience in Africa is you have to be willing to cut people loose quickly.
Hmm.
And make it clear why you're cutting someone loose, and just take it, right? And this is another reason for my software, because so much of the knowledge is like handwritten. There's a lot of institutional knowledge that is in people's heads that you have nowhere, right?
Hmm.
Like, literally, customers, frequencies, time.
Can I just flag that, Io? Because that's like, that one is deeper. Like, say a word again, bro. Because when you talk about part of the value of our cultures across the diaspora, is so much of the wisdom and the learnings are trapped in the oral tradition. And we're increasingly living in a world where everything is written, digitally stored and kept.
Right.
So we've got to transfer that value. But I just wanted to pause and like put that in there,
No, I didn't even think about that broader topic, but you're absolutely right. Like, you have so many employees that are like, once you have a good employee, or you have an employee that's been with you for a while, they know the system, and so they're valuable. And you want to keep that knowledge, but then they're like, oh, without anything else, they're like, oh, give me more money. And you're like, I'm already giving you the most I can. Like, I can't do that right now. But if we do this, and I'm working my ass off to get there. And so So another reason for the software is for the entire platform is to make that easy, right? Like you want people to grow with your company, you want people to be diligent and committed, but you also have to accept that sometimes it's not going to happen. So
Yeah.
you need to make sure you maintain as much of that institutional knowledge as possible. And so if you make it hard, so one of the things that my new company does is software. It gives a client a way to scan you, like you get a customer card, and instead of signing off on who, because we give them receipts. So like they're like, oh, he didn't give me a receipt. Why did you pay someone that didn't give you a receipt? But now it's like he has to scan your card, right? If you don't scan your card, that payment doesn't count. And unless he scanned your card, I'm not held. Your company isn't responsible, right? So like any company using my platform will have to educate their customers on this customer card is how you admit to have been paid, to paying your service. So someone scans it and they give you a receipt. If they don't scan it, because when the idea is when they scan it, the customer themselves will get a text message that says you're paid for this, right? So if I'm giving you two receipts. I'm giving you a paper one and an electronic one. If you don't got those two, I'm going to assume you didn't pay.
Yeah.
And so then I'm going to either cut off your service or expect you to pay my money. So like, and this is the fourth lesson is your customers are also dishonest, right? So someone will just be like, oh, I paid somebody. Okay, when? Show me. Give me some kind of proof, right?
Yeah.
So the software, then same thing. None of my agents, like a company can say, none of our agents have been in this area. Look at the slog.
Confirm. Yeah.
Who paid you? Who
Here's
did you
an
pay?
immutable, unmanipulable record. So
Right?
what's the story?
And people will still fight that, right? There's still free riders and there's still people that don't want to pay, which is why like 85%, you're like, fine, right? Because there's always going to be people who don't want to pay. You can pressure them later.
Can I ask a question on that? Have you you're doing business in Guinea now, and previously you did business in Djibouti.
No, I didn't do business in Djibouti. I was supposed to go to Djibouti. I didn't go.
Oh, okay. We'll get to that. Sorry, I remember that incorrectly. But I wonder, like in your current enterprise, have you come into contact with the local courts? In the area?
The local courts in Africa like a plague. I avoid the legal system.
Tell me about that. Like, what's your thinking?
So my experience is primarily in Guinea. My time in Senegal and Nigeria and other Mali has been very limited, right? So I've never had to engage with the court system. In Guinea, arguing with somebody in Guinea or in like my experience is difficult, right? Like logic does not go sequentially, right? So you're like, you can't have someone come to you and be like, oh, here's an example. My landlord had a problem. There are bore wells in Africa. There was a well. Mine wasn't even a bore well. It was a hand dug well. The water started coming out grainy. I'm like, this doesn't look good. It looks like there's a thing. I called the landlord to be like, listen, this is the lease that we signed. Come take care of your pump because I don't want grainy water. You don't want your pump to break. Come take care of it. Had this conversation back and forth with dude for weeks. He's like, that ain't on us. I'm like, homie, I'm the one that did the lease. I know it's on you. And they kept saying, read the lease. And I go, fam, I read the lease. I wrote it. Please come fix this.
Yeah.
Right? They didn't fix it. The pump broke. And so I'm like, all right, pump broke. Not on me because I don't know what to tell you. Yeah. They took it all the way to the legal judge. In Francophone Africa, there are judges and then there are huissiers, which are, I don't know the American, I don't think America has an equivalent.
Is it like magistrate, like administrative law types?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that like what a magistrate is?
I think it's like run-of-the-mill stuff that are more like questions of fact than they are questions of law.
Yeah.
But I could be wrong.
Let's go with that, right?
Okay.
So it's a similar thing. Right?
Yeah.
Because I thought magistrates were judges, but it's just in like.
Oh, they
areas,
are.
Right?
They are exactly type of judge. Yep.
Right. But these guys aren't judges, right? But these guys are much more like magistrates. Like and then we come to the magistrate or the huissier, and the guy's like, "Oh, you still got to pay them." I'm like, "Why?" He's like, "Well, because." What do you like?
Yeah.
What is your like? We signed the lease. I notified them. I called them. I asked them to come fix the thing.
Yeah.
What more can I do as a tenant other than fix it, which I don't want to do, which is what they wanted me to do, because I don't want to spend my money. It's your house. Fix
Right.
it. Right?
Yeah.
And so they're like, it's all right. You can pay, you can lose half of your security deposit. I'm like, but why? Right? And that was like a normal case. Like, I avoid the legal system in this country because it is one, like, cops don't really know the law, and two, they're really just there to hijack you. Like, the moment you have to go in front of a police officer, which the police officers tend to build themselves as judges. The moment you have to go in front of like somebody, their goal is to shake you down. Right?
I see.
And you're like, so for another example, I had me and my business partner were buying land. We bought the land. We, like, you reach out to your people in your network to be like, yo, what's up? This is what I'm doing. Someone put me in touch with someone else. Okay, cool. We move on. We bought the land.
Yeah.
Right. And then we go to give the person who put us on like a few bucks, like, thank you. Cool. Deuces. We're done. We think we're done. They come back with, oh, you owe us 10%. And I'm like, based on what?
What do you mean?
Right. And they're like, the number is whatever. I think it's like 5 or 10%. They're like, oh, because you did the deal and you used us. I'm like, what? We didn't use you. You introduced me to the man, and that was it. Like, you didn't, literally, I did every step in the process. You did nothing but make an introduction. If you wanted 10%, which is fine, you should have said that from jump, because then we'd be like, okay, cool. We adjust our math, but you didn't do that. So you can't come and then ask us for money. Right. And so we're like, homie, we're going to give you this money. And we were only doing it because we liked the first guy that we spoke to. And again, like, we spoke to a lot of people. We're like, just put us in touch with anyone that has land, because whatever. And we were just going to give him a little bit, but these dudes dragged it out. Like, they brought in, they called us to the gendarme's office. And then those dudes are like, you guys are being disrespectful. And my patience for old men in Africa is limited. My patience for old men in Africa is limited. And a lot of times they tend to be in positions of power. And what they're really doing is just shaking you down. It's incredibly frustrating.
So then what do you do from an enforcement angle if the official infrastructure is not there to support you as a small business owner? What are you doing as you scale your business? Got it. So you build businesses that are
on it, right? So, like, I've been robbed. My company, we had people steal from us. We press things, but like, for me, like, if I get bitten, I take that loss because it's easier than doing the other way. And I was actually explaining to somebody, like, this company now, the way a software company is built is, okay, if you want to bite me in the neck, like in the back, fine, but you're not going to have my service in a month. Like, I don't understand that. Like, I don't know how to explain that to you. If you don't pay me, I can, like, for waste collection as a company, it's harder to, like, just cut a customer off. At this level, you guys are just going to go back to pen and paper. Hopefully the idea is,
natural incentives.
Pardon?
Natural incentives.
Right. So if the service works as much as I hope it will, when you start using it 3 to 4 months in, you're going to just be like, this is much easier. Right.
Yeah.
And so then it's like, all right, now you're not going to pay me what you want. Okay, fine. Then go back to pen and paper. I
love it. Like, so you get scale and a sense of security because you can just cut off the fundamental value that the customer comes to rely upon.
Exactly.
I love it. I love software for that.
And the thing is, personally, I'm always of the band, I think that, like, the focus and the way people talk about software in Africa, I don't actually buy into, like, software fixing Africa's problems, because I'm like, you still need to create jobs. You still need someone to go pick up garbage. Someone still needs to do these things. What I think software does, and what I didn't realize then, and what I still feel like a lot of people aren't looking at, how do we make systems better other than the financial sector, right? Like, it's very much how do we make people be able to spend money better so we can track it and get more money out of them? Not like, how do we make it so that they do business better And yeah, we make money off of that, but when they do business better and once they're doing more, everyone wins, you know?
Yeah. Some people learn that, I think, the easy way, and others learn by, failing and then figuring it out. But I think it's a lesson to be heeded. It's good wisdom, real wisdom. I don't want to shift the conversation too much. And I love that you're in the concrete, like a true entrepreneur. We're in the weeds, but I know you can go up into the abstract pretty easily as well. I kind of want to go there a little bit. And one thing I'm thinking about a lot these days is like my purpose for being, and my purpose each day, and really thinking about my time and the decisions I make as investments in the most durable asset, and the one that nobody can buy, which is like time. So like for you, when you think about your journey and why you're here, I guess I want to know at a deep level, if you're willing to go there, considering there are other people listening, what is your life's mission? And then also, how do you think about the time you spend each day and how it contributes to that mission, or doesn't, perhaps?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mentioned my grandmother, and I mentioned Boy Scouts, and honestly, to be of service to others is literally the basis for me, right? How do I help others? How do I help people, right? The going back to the fear for a moment, it's like part of the fear is so that I can help myself, which is something you have to be cognizant of. I may need to just figure out how to find a job that pays, and not be worried about a job that like gives me room to be of service to others. And literally of service to others, being of service to others is really what I see for myself, right? And to my day to day, I don't use my time as wisely as I probably ought to. But in my day to day, it's very much a question of how do you I want to be of service to others. I want to help others help others. And so everything I'm doing is about bringing this thing to market, bringing this thing so that others can start using it, right? And start, giving me feedback so I can improve. Like, what can I do? What can what I've created help you do, right? And so the focus is on that. Every day it's about how do you show this to people? How do you engage with people on this? How do you just like lay it out to people like, listen, this is what it is, and I think this is a good thing. Try it, right? And if it meets your needs, we can figure out. I think one of the issues is like the money is not like that big of a thing to me, which is important. Like I need to figure out the revenue model, and I've got paying customers. I'm testing the revenue model, but it's like the getting people on board with the product, getting people behind the product is really my focus right now, rather than making sure we're getting revenue and enough cash in from every customer, every client.
Got it. And that all goes back to what it sounds like drives you, which is maybe that sense of fulfillment, usefulness that comes from knowing that you're in a way that grows in a compound fashion, adding value to people's lives and then into the world. That's cool. I
think about like people that can use my company. Like think about, in cities around West Africa, if not on like you have waste collection, but now if you have a good mapping of a city, you can do so many other things. You can understand how people are building and growing in that city. I'm an urban planner by training. I went to grad school for urban planning. Not only how people are doing and building, but also things around like how are they consuming? Like what else can we bring to them? And this is obviously talking about the state, the government, or even private sector is like, okay, we're seeing these clusters of people. How do we better serve them, right? How do we better bring products to them? I have a client and we're working on it with a client in Nigeria, cooking gas, right? Like think about all of the cities around Nigeria where cooking gas, where people still have to like leave their house. So if you're a young woman in a Nigerian city, and you need to get cooking gas, you've got to like call somebody or like have somebody go for you. You've got all these steps. Like it's not something that you can very easily place an order on an app, and my platform makes that possible, right? So all these various things.
I know you're keeping time. I know we've got a few more minutes. I really want to dig in a little deeper. I asked this before, and you went into, a little bit of like what the mission is, at a very fundamental level. But I'm also curious, kind of, in this world, in concrete business terms as well. What are you building in terms of a legacy for yourself, concrete enterprise, multi-enterprise plan? What does it look like? What can we look out for from you?
God willing.
God willing, always.
My grandmother used to. This is something growing up in the West Indies, and I've heard it in a different fashion in West Africa. But it's my cousin. One of my cousins still say it. But if it pleases the Lord, right, or God willing, you will see I want to get back into waste, right? So I want to get back into waste.
Okay.
But you will see a company that does a lot of the first company, right? The second company that's the software company will be the back end for dozens of other businesses, right? So you won't ever know that you're doing business with us, but you would be, right? Like in the same way, Stripe is it in America, or or Amazon, or right? Like so many things. Sorry, I didn't mean MasterCard, right? So many things move around like these financial structures. I don't even know the companies that is the back end for the structures of how companies manage, right?
You're a platform business.
Exactly, right. So my company will be the one that clients that other businesses are using to better run their businesses, right? So people's lives will be better, a little easier, right? Like even the post office, right? Like getting mail in Africa will become easier if I'm lucky. Paying your water bill, electricity bill, all of the interactions with the states, like life becomes exponentially easier and simpler to manage because of the things that my company does, which is, this back-end service, which is waste collection service. And I don't know what else I'm going to go into, but those are the two things right now that I'm focused on. I know that I'm going to do other things. I've always dreamed about, eventually finding a role for myself once my company is like up and running and I don't need to be managing it. Like, I get a CEO. Pardon?
Yeah. I said the goal, the ultimate goal, right? To stand up something that can run it without you.
Right. And so there's a CEO running it, and I'm on the board. So engaging with him and like her. And I would be in a role where working with the private sector and the public sector in Africa to build infrastructure. Because one of my things is West Africa is so beautiful and so amazing and so vast, but it is so hard to get around West Africa. Like,
I know that's right. Yep.
Plane tickets are expensive, and you need to like why am I taking 8 hours to fly from Cotonou to Dakar? It's like a half an hour flight if it's direct, maybe at most an hour. But like with layovers, and the drive, there's a highway along West Africa, along the coast. It's beautiful, but it's just not. It's not all of it is built in a way that's like easy to drive, right? So like making it possible for for West Africans to move more smoothly between the countries and have this level of quality of life, of economic level where you leave Abuja or Abeokuta or Surulere or wherever you are in Nigeria or wherever you are in Guinea and Senegal, and you're like, let's go, honey, we're gonna take the kids or whatever and go to this city for 2 weeks. We're gonna just go into Benin, go into Burkina Faso, just into Togo. See it because just because it's like, okay, you got a day drive, but it's a beautiful drive. You're gonna cross amazing borders and like, you know what I mean? My hope is to contribute to this point where West Africa is more than just a place where people are like, how do I sell things? But instead it's a place where where people are living better lives across the board. Like I've got a homeboy that has this dope education platform. Like, just improving the levels improving the standard to such a point where there's still poverty, because I know may never be possible to eliminate poverty, but even the level of poverty is like, okay, this person is not living with 2 pools in their backyard or whatever, but they have no, food's not a problem. They're okay. You know what I mean?
The basics, yeah. Human
Right.
dignity, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. I love
So
it.
that's kind of broadly what I'm hoping to contribute to in the next 20 years.
You're well positioned, brother, and God willing, as you say, that's your destiny, and more stuff that you haven't conceived of yet, and we haven't conceived of. I know will be your portion. Um,
Exactly.
wow. I don't want to end this without kind of giving you an opportunity to talk to the folks that may be listening in that want exposure to these markets, and even maybe
Mhm.
specifically want exposure to some of the experiments and enterprises that you're running and building. How do you get in touch? What's your current enterprise? How do we get in touch and be in communion and in collaboration with you if we're interested?
Yeah, that's easy. I mean, I'm on social media. I'm actually not on social media. If you look at my Instagram or even my Facebook, all you see is pictures of like things I've eaten. So like I'm only on social media just so I can look at other things. I don't post pictures of myself.
Okay.
But yeah, I have an Instagram page, Dalo Systems, um, Dalo Systems across Instagram, LinkedIn. My email is my name, C.A. Onikute, Onikute at dalosystems.com. Um, you know, finding me a quick Google search of my name is really, if you search my last name, you'll find me. Um, so it's easy to find me. I'm always happy to speak to people. I think one of the things I try to do, I was able to connect with some angels, some classmates from undergrad, and like, I told them the same story, and there are 2 groups of classmates that have invested 20,000 in my business, and I'm trying to get a bit more cash in. But I'm really interested. Like it's amazing to see all the young people in America investing, right? And like we're in our early 30s, late 30s now, so we're at that point, right?
Yeah.
But it's like amazing to see them. I think for most of the people I know are diasporans, right? West
Yeah.
Indians or West Africans. So it's like I think there is a space for them to create a vehicle, right? Like I think if folks can put up anywhere from 1,000 to as much as 20,000 and group that together, the ability to invest in Africa, there are tons of things that you can invest in, and everyone has this huge fear of being stolen from, which is absolutely valid,
Yeah.
absolutely valid. But there are people in different cities and countries that you can connect with that will be good connectors to good business opportunities. And the interesting thing is the business opportunities, I just want to keep in mind, we only have like 5 minutes left. The
Okay.
business opportunities across Africa don't need 100,000, 50,000. Like a lot of them can get very far with 20,000 and 50,000, right? My
Okay.
waste company needed like 150 and the main reason for that is we needed trucks, right? And so once you have to have hard assets, and this is where the numbers work out, right? If you want to have 3 operational trucks, you need to have 5 so that you have a backup, and you have one as a backup and one is like you can junk for parts if you need, which also means you need to have a place to store 5 trucks and then someone watching it. But like basically there are lots of opportunities, and young people in Africa, given as much as people travel, like, if people create young investment clubs in America and those clubs have anywhere above 100,000, they can make 4 investments in a year. And like people can periodically go in to check on those investments so that the person, like it takes like, when people steal from companies in Africa, it doesn't happen overnight, right? They
Right.
take 2 or 3 months to get comfortable to see, and then they do it, right? But if there's always people coming in like every 2 to 3 months, and
You
again,
can
if it's an
de-risk it.
investment club, right? Like
Yeah.
if it's an investment club with 20 to 50 people, you can make sure there's always somebody going in and checking and getting the numbers. And
Yeah.
there are people like myself, right? Like I'm doing my business and I'm raising investment for my business, but I also look for investment opportunities for other people, right? Because I want my friends, people that have the means to make those investments. And like, I also want to be aware of it, right? So like, things go well for me and I come into some bread, I'm making investments quickly, right?
Absolutely.
But I know these individuals and I know their businesses. And so I know kind of how they work and where their money would go. So to contact me again, social media, I don't use Facebook as much. LinkedIn, I live by.
Yeah.
Instagram, if you want to see pictures of the food I've eaten, all the places I've been.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I
that should be it.
we'll also put the contact information in the show notes, and on the
Okay.
website, and in LinkedIn in the posts. But I just a quick note on LinkedIn. Anybody who really knows me knows that I'm obsessed with internet companies, particularly YouTube, and
Mhm.
increasingly LinkedIn. I think that in people's social profile stack, so to speak, that LinkedIn
Mhm.
is super under indexed normally. I think that there are ways to
Right,
use LinkedIn to pop out
right.
and kind of stand out in ways that people aren't really leveraging. So I love it as a
Okay.
connector. Um,
No, I
but
absolutely love it. Absolutely love it.
yeah, I don't know, man. Part of me just says like, be quiet for a second and see if there's anything that IO wants to leave us with, like rolling out. Like, yeah, anything.
Yeah, I think the problems in Africa, and this is something the problems in Africa that can make a lot of money are non-sexy problems.
Hmm.
And and solving, and no one really thinks or talks about non-sexy problems as much, right? Education access is a non-sexy problem, right? Waste is a non-sexy problem, right? Um, but like my friend's business, this dude is putting schools onto a platform, helping them manage students. And on the other side, he's also helping students get on board to study for their exams. Great platform.
Hmm.
The dude's bringing, like, he's doing okay in this standard. I think the problem is, when people think about money and returns, they think about American level things. And now that Flutterwave has unicorn, it's going to make the market obnoxious for the next few years. Um,
Yeah.
but you can have an incredible impact. You can have returns. You can have everything with 20K,
Hmm.
right? Um, but that's focusing on non-sexy problems, right? Like, that's focusing on things that are real and necessary to people, but that also meets a huge market, right? Like, the thing about my waste company as a collection, like, I don't think people know the two largest waste companies in America, which is
Hmm.
Waste Management, and I think the other one's name is Republic.
Okay.
Both of those are billion-dollar companies,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Like, the companies that are doing the same thing I'm doing in other countries are billion-dollar companies,
Yeah.
right?
At least.
But you don't
Yep.
hear about them, right? Because
Yeah.
people always think, oh, Mike's right. They don't think about it, right?
Yeah.
And so it's the same kind of thing. There's a lot of space and a lot of opportunity. There's often a lot of challenges. I'm keeping an eye on the time. There are a
No
lot of
worries.
limitations, right? Because the government and the state is rough and bad. And like, you do all these things and banks are a pain in the neck, but you don't really need to engage with those structures, those institutions all that much, right?
Hmm.
And so you can do it. And I love to see young people, especially the diaspora, but young people across the board, come to Africa, look for investment opportunities, bring their know-how and lend their experience, right? Because it's going to drive the market. It's going to drive the ecosystem. And as the ecosystem is strengthened, more opportunities will come through, right? I know a
Hmm.
young lady that has a great juice company, a young lady with a tourism company. I've got a boy that's doing a tourism travel validation company in Benin and Togo. Like, you've got amazing things happening. And there's a lot happening in agriculture, but like, there's just so much opportunity,
Hmm.
right? And I think
Yeah.
now is the time for people to seize it, because, and the stock market gives great returns, and make those investments, do them, but definitely set aside a little bit of money to play in Africa. I think
Hmm.
play in Africa or the Caribbean, right? Like, play in those spaces where you have the ability to leave a positive, lasting impact on people's lives and your pocketbook. So
Hmm.
that's it.
Can't say it much better than that. And I think with what I call athlete operators, like you on the
Mhm.
ground, who are tested and have endurance and stamina and kind of
Mhm.
realistic lens on what it means to grow businesses scalably on the continent, I think we're
Mhm.
all we stand in good stead to do well and to do good. So I look forward to working with you through Ikoyi Capital and being a part of supporting your entrepreneurial journey. And I won't go as far as encouraging others because I don't want competition, but you know, you're an exemplar, I think, for what's out there. There's value, it's untapped. So let's get it together in a way that's fair and equitable and makes sense for everybody. There's enough to eat.
Yeah, man.
Well,
thanks. So that's the time for me, though.
All right.
I've got to jump.
I love it.
All right.
All right, man. Thanks so much.
Thank
Take
you
care.
very, very much. Later.
Talk soon. Bye.